All right, so with the snow day, I wanted to put together something for you in order to prepare for the DBQ that you got going on next week, since it's your first time writing it in full, as well as just something that you can definitely use in the future. So, first off, introduction points. Gone over this at length. When we look at, the way that our introduction is set up, remember, context should go first. Context should go first. All right. And when we look at context, remember, it is not awarded for merely a phrase or a reference. So you cannot just drop an identification in there. You have to explain how it relates to the prompt. So if it's an economic prompt, you have to tie whatever event it is in economically. If it's a prompt from the 1800 to 1850, you can use the market revolution. You can use the second industrial revolution. You can use cottage industry. You just have to tie it in. If you're talking about the American Revolution, it was over taxes. You have to make sure that you are tying your identification to the prompt. All right, to the prompt. Okay, so when we look at this, it's events, developments, or processes. So you have to be somewhat specific, but you have to make sure, once again, that you're just not ID dropping. You have to explain. Then when we look at the thesis, you have to make a claim that responds to the prompt. So you once again, you put the prompt, in a declarative form, with maybe a degree word, or, to a large extent, to a small extent. And then you have to also make sure that, that claim right here, that claim, which is extremely important, that claim is due to or because. All right. So it changed to a large extent due to particular, and then you can't use just economic, social, political factors. You have to go one level further in terms of deduction. All right. You have to go one level further below. So what kind of economic factors, what kind of social factors, what kind of political factors? So you answer the question in your own words. All right, you put the prompt in a declarative form, and then you make your claim. Any line of reasoning that is defensible. Okay, and once again, you guys have been pretty good about this, but introduction or conclusion. Introduction or conclusion. The thesis can't be in the second paragraph. We can't take your assertions that you put in your body paragraphs and say that's a defensible claim. The thesis has to be in the introduction or the conclusion. All right. Second, we have the evidence point. When we look at the way that you set your body paragraphs up, you have your assertion at the beginning, and then you let your documents do the talking. Okay. So what you have to do is you have to explain the documents, and you have to apply the documents. All right. So must accurately describe rather than simply quote. Okay. So that's going to be in red. You cannot quote the documents. Do not quote the documents. I've given you this warning before, but basically all you're doing is just tell the reader what the document is in your own words. All right. So you have your assertion, and then, you talk about what the document is about. And then that leads you to the second one, which is, you have to be able to apply it. Okay. You support your argument in the response. All right. So the response must use the content of 4 documents to support the argument. Okay. So you only have to explain 3, but to get the second point, you have to apply 4. So that's why 2 body paragraphs, 2 documents, each 4 documents. Throw in a 5th one, whatever paragraph you're more comfortable in. All right. So if you have your assertion, you have your explanation, put the document in your own words, don't quote. Then you have your application of the document. And then finally, you have your sourcing. All right. So what you need, well, actually, sorry, sourcing is the next one. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But you have your sourcing. All right. That's the point of view. That's the purpose. That's the historical situation, i.e., context, or the audience. Historical situation, remember, is the easiest. Point of view is probably the second easiest. Purpose, it then follows that. My recommendation is please do not do audience. All right. So when we talk about sourcing, the point of view is the author is Alexander Hamilton is a Federalist. That's part of sourcing. He is a Federalist, so he believes in a stronger national government. He is a Federalist, so he believes in the banking system. All right, you need that second part. So you need to identify their point of view and then what that means when it comes to why they see things in their particular perspective. Historical situation: a contemporary of Alexander Hamilton was Aaron Burr. A contemporary of Alexander Hamilton was Thomas Jefferson, who had conflicting views. So historical situation is just identifying something else. Alexander Hamilton created the National Bank. All right. So that's something, historical situation is just adding another term, an event, a person, movement that coincides with that. All right. So with your documents, you have the explanation, you have your application to your assertion, you have your sourcing, and at the end of your body paragraph, that's where you bring in the evidence beyond the documents. All right. So when it comes to the evidence beyond the documents, consider this to be just like your context. Okay. But realistically, you don't even have to tie it in. You just have to make sure that it's relevant to the argument. All right. And then we get to the last one, analysis and reasoning. So the analysis point is the first point here is the sourcing point. Okay. So for at least two documents, you have the source. I don't know why they put it here, but they do. So you have to source at least two to get that point. You might as well throw it in for all the documents that you use. It can't hurt you. It's only really going to help you. And it only really helps you because of that seventh point. All right. So I'm going to highlight a couple different parts here. All right. So when we're looking at the seventh point, it's complex understanding of the historical development. All right. So how do we do this? Okay. Multiple themes or perspectives. Okay. So multiple themes or perspectives. One demographic versus another demographic. North versus South. One political party against another political party. All right. Women and African Americans. So that's multiple perspectives, multiple themes. Okay. Economic and social. So that's really what we're looking at, and realistically, when we look at multiple themes and multiple perspectives, that also carries into multiple causes or effects. All right, what caused the Age of Reform? Was it the Transcendentalist movement? Was it the Second Great Awakening? Was it the education movement that was led by Horace Mann? There's multiple causes that you could put down there. What led to the market revolution? Was it the embargoes that forced the North to develop? Was it the invention of the cotton gin? So you can look at all of those different things, and you can go down those different routes. All right. The other item that you can do here is explaining relevant and insightful connections within and across periods or geographic areas. Like I said earlier, North versus South, that's multiple perspectives. But what we're looking at here is continuity and change over time. So sometimes the way that you set up your essay is from beginning to end. How did this change from, if the prompt's like, what extent was the change from this year to the end year? Well, you could say at the beginning it was like this, and then at the your second body paragraph is, and at the end it was like this. that's either going to be continuity or it's going to be change over time. So, if you are all of a sudden like, hey, you know what? The market revolution is similar to the second industrial revolution. The North develops and the South doesn't. That's an insightful item across periods. Okay. The other ways that you can get it, is this second item right here on the bottom by using evidence. So sourcing for documents. All right. Sourcing for documents. It's one of the reasons why I tell you to source every document that you present. It's one of the reasons why I tell you to do 5 is because if you source 4, you get that point. All right. So as the readers going through, they're checking the boxes for your documents that you are using. So they're checking off explanation, they're checking off support, and then they're checking off sourcing. If you use 4 documents extremely well, then you can end up with a 7 very, very easily. All right. So it's one of the reasons why we do it the way that we do, because it allows us uh, you know, to have a different avenue to get to that point. All right. The other way, the second best way, is this last one, using documents and evidence beyond to effectively demonstrate it. So, I've talked a lot about argument modification. So, you write 2 great body paragraphs, okay? And, you've done a very good job, but maybe one of your sourcing items is off. So you only have 3, all right? In your conclusion, you can talk about, evidence that's not in the documents that, an exception to this would be, da 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 da. An exception to the Democrats in the era of good feelings would be Henry Clay, because he proposes Federalist style platforms. That's what they would be looking at here, and that's mostly going to be in your conclusion. All right, that's mostly going to be in your conclusion. The other route that they give you, I'm really not a fan of. Effectively using all 7. Ooh, that's a lot darker than I thought. Effectively using all 7 documents to apply to your argument. That's hard. That is difficult. That is the most difficult one. All right. So it also lengthens your essay, and it's going to take up a lot more time. All right. So that's why I suggest doing it the way that we do. So just wrapping up. All right. Wrapping up. Intro paragraph, context, 2 sentences. Identify something that relates to the prompt, and then relate it to the prompt. Second sentence relates that to the prompt. Thesis, take the prompt, put it into a declarative form, and then add a line of reasoning that is conceptual. All right, not examples, and economic, political, and social are too vague. So one level below that. Body paragraphs. Assertion is your topic sentence. Okay, that's your line of reasoning. Explain the doc in your own words. Apply the doc to your assertion. Source the document. Do that twice in a body paragraph. All right, 3 times if you're fortunate. Then outside evidence, just wherever. Okay, 2 body paragraphs, 2 to 3 documents in each. And then you have your conclusion. In your conclusion, remember, big thing, rewrite your thesis. Okay? Thesis can only be in the introduction, conclusion, so make sure that you rewrite your thesis. And then finally, if you want to do argument modification, like as you see here, using additional evidence, connecting it to a different time period, you're more than welcome to do so if you have the time. All right? Just remember, when you're doing that, when you're taking it, on the AP test in May, that it can really, the time can get away from you. So it's very important to plan wisely. It's very important to just remain calm, outline, for the first few minutes. So that way you know exactly where the documents are going to be, you know what argument you're going to make, and that will keep you from panicking later on. And also remember that you're typing it, thankfully, so that way, if you mess up, you can just delete. If you want to insert something, just move the cursor to where you need to insert it. All right. So thank you guys. here if you have any questions. Looking forward to seeing you the rest of the week.